Well, one of the recipes that I really enjoy making because it has such a universal appeal. It's good for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, party foods, you name it. Crepes. That's what we're going to make. I'm going to show you how to make the perfect crepe batter. And you can make these crepes ahead of time. You could freeze them, refrigerate them. Oh my goodness, they have so many different purposes. And after we make these crepes, I'm going to have some more videos to show you how we can fill them to make them ever so delicious. So, like us, definitely want you to subscribe. Please put your comments below. You know, tell me what you think about crepes. Maybe you got a favorite recipe. Maybe there's something we can add to really kick it up, you know. But anyway, we're going to get started. So I'm Chef Don McMillan, and it's time to make crepes. Well, to make some crepes, we gotta break some eggs. So we're gonna break them on a flat surface. You know that saying in French, to make an omelet, you have to crack some eggs. Well, in this case, to make a crepe, we gotta break some eggs. And we're gonna break 3 eggs right now. Of course, that saying, or the idiom means, to be successful in life, you have to make some mistakes, because then you learn from your mistakes. So, we're going to go ahead and take these eggs and whisk them up. So that's the first thing I want to do, is go ahead and whisk our wonderful eggs. Just go ahead and do that. And now we're going to combine water and milk. So I've got it half and half of milk and water. I've got a little extra water in here just in case I need to thin down the crepe. You may think it's strange using water and milk. Why don't I use 100% milk? Is because of the fat content. We want this crepe to come out just perfect, and the milk will give it the texture that we want, as well as the eggs. And now we're going to add in a little salt. You do need to put a little bit of salt in there. Go ahead and whisk that in there. And then I'm going to place in our flour. I'm using all-purpose flour here, so we'll put the flour in there. So please don't use self-rising flour, and sometimes bread flour I don't think would work as well, but all-purpose is just right for this recipe. Now I know you see all those lumps in there. Don't worry about it, okay? We're going to show you how to get those lumps out. This happens every time I make crepes, so we're not going to let that deter us. But I do want to mix my batter really good, so it's going to take a little bit of whisking, a little bit of patience, but trust me, the final results will be ecstatic. Now I'm going to put a little bit of butter in there, whisk that in there. If you didn't want to use butter, for example, you wanted to use just all water, you could use maybe some type of a fat, like a margarine or something. Of course, I like to use butter, but I can also use canola oil, but you do need a little bit of fat in there, okay, to make these crepes come out. All right, now can you see the texture of the batter? So now let me just show you how we proof it to see if it's correct. It should coat the spoon, and then you should be able to run your finger through it. So let's put a spoon in there, and if you can do this, watch. You see? If you can do that, you can do it with a wooden spoon. I'm using Teflon spoon. A silicone spoon. Then you know your batter's ready. But remember I told you about those little lumps? You're always going to get them. Don't fear. Look, this is what you do. You have a strainer and a bowl, and you just pour that batter right through there. Sometimes when you deal with those eggs, there's like a little bit of that connecting thing in there that just doesn't whisk up. Well, the strainer is going to handle that for you, and I'll show you what I mean in just a second. When I put the spoon, look at that, it was in the strainer. See, Those are the little particles from the egg as well as the flour that didn't dissolve. Not a problem. Scrape off the bottom, put that in there, and now there is our batter. Okay, the next thing is going to require some more patience. I know you're going to say, hey, let's start making some crepes. You really have to refrigerate it. Ideally for up to an hour. I have cheated and done it like in 15 to 20 minutes, okay? And it worked pretty good, but please let it rest. You have to let it rest. Now, something else will happen when you let it rest. That's why I'm reserving this water, is that the flour now is going to thicken up. I mean, surprisingly, it'll thicken up inside the refrigerator. So therefore, you can just thin it down till we get to the consistency that I had shown you earlier. Okay, you want that consistency. So we're going to put this in the refrigerator, cover it, definitely cover it. You don't want to put a skin on it. We're going to cover it, put it in the refrigerator, let it set, and we're going to come back and we're going to make some crepes. Okay, taking the batter out of the refrigerator, and let's go ahead and unwrap it. So you do need to cover it. And you do need to stir it again. And if it's a little too thick, you can just add in a little bit of water. Let me see, just a tiny bit. So we have that same consistency that we had earlier. Okay, so I'm going to share some more tips with you in just a little bit, but first of all, I want to go ahead and get our fire started. And I want to heat my pan over medium heat. Again, don't be too much in a hurry, because what you want to do is the pan's going to need to be hot to make the crepes. I'm using my omelet pan or a small saute pan. You can use a larger pan to make larger size crepes. You can use a non-stick pan that works really good. And if you have a crepe pan, that works as well. You're going to need to season it, so you got to check the instructions. Or if you want, you can just hit me with some comments and I can help you along with that as well, okay? So here's what we're going now. We're going to get that pan to be hot. Here's the first tip I want to show you. I know they tell you to use a brush and then paint it on there, or sometimes you can even spray, which also works really good. I found by just using some paper towels and the melted butter, just a little bit, and go around the pan like this, is what you need. Now, I know if you say, well, I got a non-stick pan, I don't need to grease it. But here's the point that I'd like to make, is that when you're making the crepes, it's the color that's going to point out, okay? Now, I think the pan is hot, because the pan's going to need to be hot when you put the batter in, because you're going to twirl it around, okay? That's how that's going to work. It takes a little bit of practice, so keep practicing, don't worry, you'll get the hang of it. So, hot pan, a little bit of fat in there, and then in goes our batter. Now just check this out, keep your eyes on the pan. Put the batter in the pan and swirl. See how I'm doing it? Swirl, swirl, swirl. And as it's swirling, the crepe is already filling in. Now, we're going to cook the crepe on one side and we're going to flip it. All right, let me just check my heat. It's a little high. Let me turn it down. And now you want to do the edges. See how the edges are right here? You want to go around the edges like that. And then once you start seeing, see those little bubbles here in the center of them? That's the indication that your crepe is ready to be flipped. See, flip it, and then cook it on the other side. Now, I'm going to tell you something. The first two crepes almost never come out perfect, okay? They're good, but they're not perfect. This pan is getting seasoned as you're cooking, and this happens. That's just a fact of life. Don't panic, okay? So here's our first crepe. We're going to go ahead and place it on our pan. I'm going to butter this pan again. A little excess crepe in there, but just butter it. And we're going to do again, okay? So watch the pan again. Put the batter in the center. Start swirling immediately. Don't hesitate. Just swirl, 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 swirl to get it even size crepe so it fills the bottom of the pan. And then keep an eye on it. You'll start seeing little tiny bubbles. It'll start at the edges, working its way up to the middle. When the edges are starting to cook a little bit, you just take your spatula and just run around the side just like that. Loosen it up, loosen it up, loosen it up. And then pretty soon it'll start cooking in the center. And then before you know it, we're going to flip. And don't be afraid to make some mistakes, because then you get to eat some. We always eat our mistakes here, right? All right, just another minute or two, and it'll be nice and brown on one side, and then we'll flip it to the other side. This happens when I make pancakes as well. So, or even sometimes I'm making waffles. I see the same thing. Okay, just another second or two, and then get your spatula underneath, and then just flip. Now you see it's starting to brown up really nice. The next one we do is going to be even nicer, okay? Take that out. Place your crepe there. Now, if you're going to be using them, you can start stacking your crepes one on top of the other. That would be fine. If you're going to save them, I'm going to give you another tip in just a minute. But let me go ahead and get this. While this pan is hot, you got to make some more crepes. Now, this is the third crepe we're making in a row. We've got our heat on there, moderate. Put our batter right there in the center. Swirl, 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 swirl. All the way around, just like that, right? See? Okay. Put it on the fire, and then it's going to start cooking from the center to the side. And we'll see how this one will turn out. That's why your pan needs to be hot. You can't put it into a cold pan, because you won't be. It has to stick to the bottom of the pan as it's swirling, and that is, it's not going to happen when you put it into a cold pan. And then once you get it going, you can just go back and forth, back and forth. I know when I was cooking, again, I worked on a board of ship, and I was making crepes. I had actually 6 crepe pans going, so I was going boom, 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 and you know, go that. All right, and now we're getting that color that we like, that nice brown color in the center of it. And it doesn't take long to cook on one side. So we're just going to place it here. So let me show you some tips as well. Let's go ahead and butter this pan up. I'm going to make one more, and then we're going to work on let's see, swirl, 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 swirl. Because these are very thin. You don't need a thick batter, so don't overload the pan. Just as enough to coat the bottom of the pan and swirl it all the way around is what you're looking for. So I teach a lot of classes for children, especially in our cooking school. And I had this one teacher, she's from France, and she likes to entertain. And so when we were deciding what class I was going to do for the children, because she was teaching them French, and these were like, I think, 2nd or 3rd graders, she said, "Will you please make crepes? I think the children would like crepes." I said, "I agree. Children love crepes because you can fill them with so many good things, right?" So as I'm making the crepes, I told her, you know, I told the class really that when I'm making crepes, the first 1 or 2 just hardly ever come out, you know. So I don't worry about that, because I know the 3rd and the 4th and all the subsequent ones are going to be just perfect. Well, she started to cry, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I say? I mean, look at this. See, this is the 4th one. Look how more perfect it's coming out. So she started to cry and said, "Oh my," and I just didn't know what to do. So at the end of the class, I went up and I said, "What did I say? Did I say something wrong?" And she said, no, you didn't say anything wrong. You don't understand. I'm from France. People think that I'm a wonderful French cook because, you know, I'm French. But the reality is, I try to make crepes. And every time I make crepes, the first one don't come out, the second one don't come out, I throw the batter away. And I keep throwing it away, and I never made crepes. She said, if I knew I could have waited to the third crepe, I'd have been successful. So here, life is like that too. I told you earlier that you got to crack some eggs to make an omelet. That means it's okay. You got to make some mistakes. When you're making crepes, remember this, what I told you. The first and second one, if it don't come out, don't throw the batter away, because the third and the fourth are going to be even better, okay? All right, now I'm going to show you another tip. You said, oh, hey, Chef Don, you know, why don't I just make all these crepes? Yeah, you're right. Make all these crepes, but you can save them. Here's how I save them, okay? I have parchment paper. You need parchment paper, not anything else. You don't want any wax paper. You don't want any plastic wrap. You want parchment paper. If you don't use parchment paper, trust me, you'll regret it. But here's what we're doing. We take these crepes, look, we place them there. We put another piece of parchment paper like this. We do another one like that, okay? Are you following me? Just like this. And then once you have them with the parchment paper, what I like to do is to put them in one of those reclosable plastic bags. Write what's on there. Be sure you write what's on there and the date, okay? So you might want to say 6 crepes, you know, and today's date. Put that in there. Put them in this Ziploc bag. It's a freezer bag. And then just stick them in your freezer. They lay flat, and they will be good. I'm saying at least 6 months if you put them in the freezer and you keep this bag closed. Such an easy thing. Squeeze all the air out, you know, folding it, and then just zip it, okay? That's another hint that you'll thank me for later, because you can make these. And let me tell you, it's always great to have crepes in your freezer. And they defrost so easily. You take them out of the freezer, take out what you need, put it out on the counter. By the time you get the filling ready, the crepes are already defrosted, and you've got dinner, you got snacks, you got party food, you got breakfast. You can't do enough, really. Okay, so now I'm going to give you another. If you just can't wait, I've got to have a crepe, man. I made all these crepes. I got to get me something. Okay, so here we go. Take your crepe. Really easy way to do it. Place it right on your plate. Get a little bit of powdered sugar, and just tap, 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 tap. And that's it. You now have a wonderful snack, and you'll thank me for it later. Hey, I've got more recipes. I'm going to show you some wonderful stuffings for this, so you want to definitely subscribe. You definitely want to do that, and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. We'll trade some trade secrets, whatever you like. And remember, because I want you to see the next few videos coming up, because we're going to do some really wonderful things with these crepes. So definitely remember always that our recipes are simple and delicious.